Welcome back. Well, I stopped at Bedford on Christmas Eve. In part, obviously, I'm hoping to find some antique bargains, but I was also hoping to do a little bit of last-minute Christmas shopping. And I thought that what we would do, because I got completely shanghaied by one booth in particular, and I have enough film so that we can do this entire episode on that one booth. So, Merry Christmas, and we'll be back in a minute. Well, this booth is Janine's booth, and we've stopped there before. Now, the first thing I have to do is I have to apologize because that cell phone camera, it has very good audio, but gee, it just doesn't want to focus sometimes. So, the first couple of clips seem to be out of focus to me. You know, I'm blind, what do I know? I mean, it could be fine. You know, like seriously, it could be fine. And I could just be, you know, could be my eyes not focusing, but I do think they're out of focus. But it does catch up, at least in my opinion. So I thought we'd start off by just sort of panning around the booth. This is very small. This space is probably no more than maybe 8 feet by 10 feet. So let's do an overview. So let's check out Janine's booth. As you know, I've gotten some remarkable deals here, especially on relatively modern, that is, second half of the 20th century, pieces of imported Japan, China. In particular, she often has some very nice left-in pieces, and today we're going to take a look at some of the jewelry. This is a nice piece. Let's see if we've got a price on this. Do we? Yes, we do. $14. So, $14, very nice piece. Definitely a good price. We have more pieces here. I like this turquoise piece. And again, the prices here are so reasonable. I have never actually stopped to take a good look at any of the jewelry that she has in the in her bookcases, mostly because it's really not my style. As I'm sure you all know by now, I have a thing for steampunk and very classic antique pieces, but modern jewelry really isn't my trip. You know, I want to see gears and keys and whatever else have you. But I did take a look, and frankly, those are nice pieces, and they are very, very reasonably priced. So I'm glad we got a chance to take a look at it. But again, as I say, I don't think the film was really all that clear, but it will improve. So it didn't take me long at all to get snagged by a piece very quickly. So let's take a look at this. Not surprisingly, Janine has come through for us with a very pretty lusterware wall pocket. Take a look at that. $8. Beautiful. I don't see any damage. And she tells me she is very careful to screen for damage before she lists. This is a beautiful price, beautiful piece, and it's definitely coming with me. Oh, wait. Look. We're not $8 after all. How nice. Oh yeah, everything I really look for in porcelain. Japanese lusterware and a bird, because as I've always said, birds sell. Very pretty piece. I like it. A lot of these pieces, these Japanese wall pockets, were done. The paint can be a little on the sloppy side because they were done very, very quickly, intended to sort of blow them out fast. So let's talk about how they did it, because I make reference to this a lot, and I don't know if I've ever actually gone into detail. Japanese porcelain at this time was very often done as cottage industry pieces, the same way that early, pre-industrial revolution manufacture was handled in Europe. In other words, the way shoes were made, the way wagon wheels were made, they would be made by artisans who would be doing it in their homes with their whole families with them. So the pieces that we see, a very large portion of them coming from Japan, would have been painted on somebody's kitchen table. Mom and dad and the kids and the paintbrushes, and they were doing it. A lot of pieces were coming from factories as well. But it's important to remember that Japanese industry in the years immediately preceding World War II was geared toward war manufacture. They took that very seriously. And after World War II, of course, it had to be rebuilt. We all know what happened to Japan in the Second World War. So they didn't have a lot of industry for porcelain manufacture. So very often pieces would have been sort of outsourced into private homes. The Japanese rose medallion pieces, these are the pieces that were made in Japan, painted in Hong Kong, were very much done the same way, and in Hong Kong it was the same way. The pieces would be fired in Japan, sent to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong, for those of you who are not aware of this, and I'm sure most of you are, it only takes a moment's thought before you realize, oh yeah, Hong Kong has no land. Huge population, small island, land is at a premium. So cottage industries, like sort of the literal concept of cottage industry, people working in their home at the kitchen table, was a very attractive concept for them as well. So when we look at Japanese pieces, yes, maybe it was painted in a factory. Maybe it was painted on somebody's kitchen table. Maybe it was painted by a fine artist. Maybe it was painted by an 8-year-old kid with a paintbrush. Very hard to tell. Well, not necessarily when you look at it, but in other words, when we see a piece, hard to know where it came from, because even the marks, things like made in Japan, don't tell us that much about it. Just thought you might like that little overview, because this is why it can sometimes be very difficult to pinpoint specific dates in Japanese manufacture. It's why we don't associate regions with Japanese manufacture. We just say Japan, and that's pretty much the end of it. All right, hope that helps a little. This wall pocket in particular is pretty nicely done. Not up to, the standards of the Noritake studios, for example, or the Mieto studios, but still nicely done. Lusterware, birds, oh yeah. Next, I ended up crawling around to the back and grabbing a plate off the wall. So let's take a look. As I mentioned when we first approached this booth, I get a lot of very nice second half of the 20th century Japan pieces. This
is beautiful. Wall plate. That sticker, Norcrest, is one of the Japanese import companies. I have been keeping a list of those companies, and it's a very lengthy list. It is available on the Sumi Angels Facebook page. Colleen keeps updating it. So if you have an interest in this, go check them out. She has the full list published. And $3. But remember, that's not really $3. This is gorgeous, and this is coming home with me.
Now this piece, Norcrest, that's the sticker on the back. As I've mentioned before, there are so many. I'm going to have to count my list. I keep it in my phone, and I think I have over 24 different companies that were exporting from Japan in the years immediately following the Second World War. Beautiful, beautiful quality artwork that was coming out of this. These pieces were well done. And this was definitely not something that was being done, you know, by an 8-year-old kid with a paintbrush on somebody's kitchen table. Fine artwork on this. So that piece later led to me crawling around the back to grab something else to go with it.
Well, I found a companion to the Norcrest piece I just picked up. This is also Norcrest, also $3 with 25% off. I should have mentioned on the other piece, these are beautiful hand-painted plates, just gorgeous. They're designed to be hung on a wall, but obviously they can be used as a plate as well. So, like his friend, this one is coming home with me. It would be such a shame to leave him here all by himself. Now, this piece is a very large wall pocket, and there's no information on the origin or manufacture of this piece. It looks more European than Asian to me, but I could be wrong about that. There's not a lick of information. And the last time I showed you this piece and said I would think about it, this piece was marked $10. It still is. In reality, with that sale, it's $7.50. But I have to say, because of what it is, because of the size, because of the really good condition, and keep in mind, when you are looking at old pieces of porcelain, what you want to look at is the gilding. That will be your first indication of wear or age, and this is perfect. So this is going to be a very nice piece, especially at a nice price.
So there we have another Norcrest plate, wall plate. The reason I really like those particular wall plates is because even though they have hanging holes in the back, they can be laid flat on the table and used as any sort of plate you want. Very nice pieces, and obviously very inexpensive, because this whole booth is just priced to sell. The wall pocket, however, I don't believe that was Japanese. When I first took a look at it, and this would have been a few weeks ago, I pulled it off the wall and said, let's look at this, and if it's here later, I'll come back for it. Yes, I know, I've got a cat sneaking up on me, don't I? One of the things that I noticed about that piece that made me question where it was from was that little sort of like hash mark design on it. That was very common in Japanese porcelain, just that little like a tic-tac-toe board sort of design. I do not believe this piece is Japanese. I believe this is European, in spite of my little checkerboard squares there. But that's one of the things I wanted to talk about a little too. It can be extremely difficult to take an unmarked piece, especially when it's a piece of lusterware. The lusterware in Japan and in Europe, they had some differences, but they also had a great many similarities. And in this case, I am defaulting to Europe for that piece, not because of the very European design, because as you noticed from those Norcrest pieces, those were very European designs with the cabbage roses and whatnot. It's not as if it was small Japanese children in a scene. But I'm just thinking that is more likely to be European. Sometimes with pieces like this, in the end, you really just can't tell. Yes, I got you. Right. Yeah. In the end, you really just can't tell. And so I will end up listing pieces like that in my Etsy shop. I'll give my best guess. That's all I can really do. So that was a nice piece, and it was $10 marked, 25% off, $7.50. I do think that's going to have a pretty easy time of finding a home because it's large and it's a very sort of classical mid-century, not mid-century modern, but mid-century traditional design. The sort of thing you might expect June Cleaver to have on the wall of her living room, that sort of mid-century. Oh, went back, still in the same booth, and grabbed a couple of other very interesting pieces. Let's take a look at these.
Okay, we're still at Janine's booth here. This piece, $4. Let me see how she's got this marked. Green glass dish. This is my black light. It's something I always travel with. And let's see if I can show you. Well, it's very bright in here, so it's hard to see. But take a look at that. We are talking uranium glass here. So, it's marked $4. The 25% off makes it $3. Oh, it's a comin'. And this is a very nice wall pocket planter. Just under 8 inches. $5, unmarked. Hard to say on this piece. I'm inclined to suspect it is American made. Pretty piece. Again, 25% off. Nice size. It's got a very sort of, I don't know, country cottage, shabby chic look to it. So I think that will come with us too.
Well, yes, that little green piece is uranium glass. Oh my. I do not like to keep uranium glass around. The reason I don't like to keep it around is because dealing in glassware and porcelain, I would be very likely, if I started dealing in uranium glass, to have a lot more of an exposure than the average person would be. If you have 1 or 2 pieces of uranium glass in your house, there's no real big deal. You know, I would say, by the way, don't be stupid. If you're going to collect uranium glass, the very least you should do is put it in a display cabinet with glass doors. But remember, these things are radioactive. Now, it's not the sort of radioactive that's going to have you turned into, you know, some sort of, you know, underground chud beast with 9 heads. Or maybe it will. I don't know. But the radioactivity levels on this sort of piece, they have been measured up to 24-25%. That's really scary when you think of numbers that high. For the average collector, a piece or two is no big deal. If you are dealing in these pieces, because you're going to have a lot more than one or two pieces, you are going to be at a significantly higher risk. Now, I do not plan to be, pumping out little rug wraps or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about my children having 9 heads. But I don't think it's something to scoff at, although I am scoffing at it, aren't I? Or to just say, oh, well, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. If this is something you like, and a lot of people do like it, take some precautions. Little precautions are all you need. Glass doors, like I have on the bookcase, that should be sufficient. If you have uranium glass, like glasses, please do not drink out of them. Just don't. Keep them for display. Because this is another question I get all the time. Is antique china safe to eat from? In general, yes. People did it for the life of the plate. Before it found its way to your house, it was sitting on somebody else's dinner table on Sunday. In general, these things are safe. But when you get to things like uranium glass, not necessarily. So, a piece like this is great. Hopefully it will be a display piece for someone and not their cereal bowl. And when I list it, I'm certainly going to put that in my listing. Do not eat your cornflakes out of this, please. But, what people do once they've got it is, I have no control over that. But I will say, I think pieces like this should be treated with respect. In other words, you are dealing with radioactive materials. Know that. Treat it appropriately. This should not become, little Timmy's breakfast bowl. So having said that, and I've done my preaching about it, uranium glass is very beautiful. A lot of people collect it. Most serious collectors do take precautions. They keep it behind glass doors. They are careful about it. I would say if you are thinking about collecting uranium glass, see about getting an inexpensive Geiger counter just to make sure you don't have one of those pieces that is really going to make you glow in the dark, But there's definitely a collector's market for it. These pieces are great. You get them under a good black light and they just glow like this bright chartreuse green. It's wonderful. People do like them. I tend not to be interested in that sort of thing. I figure there's enough danger in my life just crossing the street. I don't need to beg for more. But nice piece, a price like that, my goodness, yeah. So from there, we go on to the last pieces I grabbed in that booth before I finally made my way upstairs. So here you go.
Okay, to finish up our snatchings from Janine's booth, a very pretty Capitale style piece, flower pot. We've got a number on it, but that's it. All the petals are intact, which is extremely unusual for pieces like this. Very beautiful. Already got a lovely little hole in the bottom. So that is going to come with me as a Tidbit tray topper. $5 and, of course, 25% off. So let's set this aside. I found a little section in the corner where she has some very pretty necklaces. Let me get this up so you can see. Freshwater pearls, $5. I'm not sure what these little brown beads are, but it's very pretty. Another one, $6. These little beads are probably coral. So those are coming home with me as last-minute emergency Christmas gifts. Very pretty. No one's ever going to think it was a last-minute, under $5 gift. So win-win.
That little Capitale style piece. Now I say Capitale style because a real Capitale piece needs to come from Capitale, Italy, and it has to come from the right factories and whatnot. But it's a style as well. So without being able to trace it back specifically to any certain factory in Italy, I default to Capitale style. When you are looking to buy a piece like that, what you have to check, and you have to be meticulous, go over every little flower, every little blossom, every little fingertip, whatever it is, and make sure there is no damage. That's where the value of these pieces are. It's just no damage is the difference between a valuable piece and a not so valuable piece. The other factor too, by the way, is size. A larger piece that's fully intact is always going to be more valuable than a small piece, even if that too is fully intact. But check those little petals. So that little Capitale flower basket is probably going to sit on top of a Tidbit tray. That is probably going to be something that somebody will really get a kick out of. And how nice for me, the hole's already drilled in the bottom. The little freshwater pearl necklaces, they were around a corner on some hooks in an area that I didn't even know anything was in there. As I say, it's a very small booth. You would think I would have been able to get around and see every nook and cranny. No, these were little nooks and crannies that were very much hidden from me. Pieces like this, those little very nice pieces of freshwater pearl jewelry, they are going to go into fancy little boxes, and they are going to go into my pocket as last-minute Christmas gifts. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but personally, I always find that I am running into somebody on Christmas Day, and it's like, oh, I forgot all about them. Doesn't hurt to have a little extra present in your pocket. Now, though, frankly, this year, none of us are really running into anybody. It's, we're all social distanced to the point where, we don't even say hi to people anymore. But just in case, and if I don't happen to run into anybody this year, those little pieces are going to go into the pretty little boxes. And next year, I am going to have a couple of nice little, very inexpensive, but very pretty and definitely gift-worthy items to scoot into my pocket as my just-in-case presents. All right, that was, by the way, just one booth at Bedford. So just goes to show you that if you hit the right booth, you can just make deals all day long there. And this is the right booth. As I mentioned at the very beginning, this is the booth that always snags me with a little something here or there, especially the 20th century Japanese porcelain. She always gets me with that. All right. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever it is you celebrate, have the time of your life. I will see you all tomorrow. Go back to your family and your friends. Turn off the telephone or the television or the iPad or whatever. Enjoy your holiday. I will see you all tomorrow.